Welcome to the New Standard. Casting light on the leading edge.
All right, we're here in Detroit. Kevin and I are in person.
Hello.
We're here with Chelsea.
Hello.
Hi, Chelsea.
Hi.
Yeah, so I happen to be in southwestern Ontario, Canada, and Kevin and Chelsea are from Ohio. So we met on common ground here in Detroit, the Motor City. And we're here to talk about a few things today: government, deep state, republics, democracy. What's the role of government today?
What is it going to become? Since it's so dysfunctional right now, where can we go with all of this?
Yeah, and I think one thing everybody will agree to is that no matter what government it is, I mean, like I'm from Canada. I spend a lot of time, ripping my hair out about the Canadian government, the way that the constitutional monarchy works there. So do a lot of other people. I mean, it's a leftover system from the British monarchs. And there's a lot of people in Canada who think that they'd be better off with an American system. And from what I just read, a biography of Thomas Jefferson, and the original reasons that the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights are created was to protect individuals from tyranny, from tyrannical leaders, like sovereigns and whatnot, tyrannical governments. And the government should be there to help express the will of the people, the will of the individual. And it just seems like today, no matter which side of the border you're on, we're facing the same thing. And I mean, Donald Trump, in my opinion, is a ray of hope. I mean, not the Obama style hope, but I mean, actual real fucking change.
Real change. Hope.
Yeah, real. But I mean, he's one man and he's up against a huge swamp, an establishment in a country that is really run by lawyers.
And companies.
Lawyers and companies.
And their lobbyists.
Mm-hmm. So it's really not the same America that was created in 1776. And, we're just going to talk today about how it got that way, what's missing today, and what could be done in the future to align the state, in whatever form it is, more with the human individual will.
So whenever you start talking about individual will, of course, everybody has their own idea of what should be and how they want to have it. But at the same time, whenever nothing ever changes and corporations and their lobbyists take over government, I believe things have to change so you can actually have some direct representation in government for the people. And that is the big thing missing in my mind. And that really leads to focusing more on states' rights than the federal level enforcement of different laws. And, a lot of groups are going that way, whether it's just libertarians or independents, even people on the left and people on the right. There's always this thread of freedom and personal freedom. And I believe blowing that up and expanding that in ways is the way to go for any government right now.
It's blowing up and expanding what aspect?
Just to really enhance the idea of personal freedom. A lot of people focus on taking care of the masses. And I believe changing the perspective to making sure that you can actually function in your country is more important than making sure that we're taking care of this group of people or making sure we actually have, I hate to say this, good medical care. I mean, that is very important. But at the same time, whenever you have companies and insurance companies that are outside of the United States making laws for the people of America, I mean, that is just the biggest corruption that has occurred lately. with Obamacare. But nonetheless, how does this all change? I think that's all starts with grassroots.
Yeah, educating people to empower them to take care of themselves instead of thinking that somebody should be taking care of them.
That's the nanny state that has crept in. And those are the tentacles of the state now that create this super overreach into people's lives where, I mean, if it goes on any further, this like coddling and this nanny state and taking care of everybody, you're eventually going to end up in Matrix bubble tubes, just like in the movie. I mean, that's where that goes.
It does.
And some people would love that.
Some people would love that. They just want to be swaddled and cuddled all day long and then fed with tubes and, you know, some machine automatically wipes their ass. But, I mean, that then you start to question, is there any worth in a human life that has that? It goes back to almost to the question of euthanasia, right? Should this life continue, or is the quality of life so gone that it's not worth putting this person through a sense of pain? I mean, living in a bubble and being fed nutrients is like being in a coma.
There is no pain. I think you brought it up right with the whole pain level. People gain knowledge, they gain talents through experiencing pain. And once you take that away and you end up in a mental utopia, all of a sudden there's no incentive. And then what do? Become a big fat blob that eats at McDonald's every day.
Well, exactly. Now, here's the thing that's happening. There's an example happening in Canada right now of what Mark Zuckerberg is going around promoting. He's on a tour of every state right now. He's campaigning to probably run for president in 2020. And his big message he keeps repeating to everyone is, nobody's going to have to work anymore. The machines are taking over. Nobody has to work. So you're going to get a universal income.
Universal income,
right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they've tried it anywhere in the States yet, but in Ontario, in the province of Ontario, the premier just launched it. It started this summer in some communities.
I have read up on that a little bit.
Exactly. So you've got that experiment in certain parts of Canada.
Did they hand-pick communities to try it in?
Yeah, they handpicked it. I'm not sure what set those communities apart from others. I don't know. But another thing that's really, really, really big where I come from, like around Windsor, Ontario, with all the greenhouses, it's a huge greenhouse industry, is marijuana.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be Canada's savior.
Okay.
It's coming to Ohio soon.
Right. But you've got Justin Trudeau, who basically got elected because of his nice hair. The fact that his dad was a prime minister, so his dad's name is the most well-known name in Canadian politics ever, right? So he got otherwise he'd still be a drama teacher in a high school. So he comes in on the platform that he's going to legalize pot. Okay? So
Did
now
he really? Was that one of his big things?
Oh, it was huge.
No
That's
kidding.
what won him the youth vote, and the fact that he smiled at a lot of people's dogs at the gay pride parades.
I saw him with a Muppet recently. It was
Yeah,
cute.
no, wasn't that Randy the Unicorn? I think it's called.
Oh, Randy even. Wow.
Is it Randy or Gary? Sorry,
What?
Gary the Unicorn.
The gayest name possible.
I think-
You're Gary.
Okay, let's go with Gary because it's just a little further out there, right? So Gary the Unicorn, I mean, Justin Trudeau came in on a marijuana platform, and now the marijuana growing industry, regulated by the government, is just exploding.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got these people, Canadians, already have free healthcare, okay? Total socialist healthcare. There's no other system there except the state socialist healthcare system. You got free healthcare. You can get sick every day and go to the hospital. You can blow your arms and legs off, go get them sewn back on. You know what I mean? You can just... Canada celebrates illness, okay? Because there's free healthcare. You don't want to get sick in the States because it's going to cost you, $5,000 to get stitches, right? Anyway, you got free healthcare, free weed, and now free income.
What else do you need?
Do you have any incentive to do anything?
No, not at all.
Does that sound like socialism? I mean, it does a lot sound like socialism, even though Canada doesn't promote itself as a socialist country. So you've got this new kind of democratic technological socialism, because I mean, to grow enough marijuana to stone the entire population, as you know, Chelsea, high-tech farming, greenhouses, do some R&D projects, figure out how you can increase your yields and stuff like that. Grow a lot of weed. And here's the kicker with the weed. Now, if you find a mineral like magnesium or potassium or niacin or iron, you take these supplements, the pharmaceutical companies hate that because they cannot patent these substances.
No, they cannot.
However, the U.S., certain areas in the U.S., the patent office in the U.S. is now giving patents for strains of marijuana.
Really? Oh, I haven't
Yeah.
heard that one yet.
So medical marijuana is now the new darling of the pharmaceutical industry, and it meets that demand that everyone's been saying is, I want natural solutions, right?
Yeah.
So now they have the marijuana is making the pharmaceutical industry come in their pants. This is the fucking grand slam home run.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody, starting with Canada, because they're way ahead with the socialist bubble and the nanny state, is going to be sitting there consuming government weed that's super heavily taxed, and they're going to be given their free health care anytime they need to go to the doctor, and their free income. And they're going to be the first matrix bubble society on earth.
They'll just be strapped to their couch, eating Doritos, watching television, and that.
Yeah.
What else is there?
Well, there's going to be like two kinds of people: the people that are going to be in the bubble, and then people that will take all of this free stuff and then do way more with it. Like, oh, I don't have to work. I don't have to pay for these extra things they're already given to me. Well, I have all this extra time, all this freedom. Then there's going to be that small, probably not the majority, of people who will take on new skills with that free time and stuff like that. So it's going to be great for some people, and for everybody else, they're going to be.
So the motivated will win.
The motivated will win.
Mm-hmm. But the unmotivated are going to become more and more unmotivated.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And
I think that subgroup will definitely grow.
Yeah.
I mean, with no incentive to do anything, I'll do nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
I'll play video games all day.
Now here's a
I'll get
tale.
lost in my
I'll be mad
VR.
on Facebook all day.
Outrage.
They'll just be enraged on Facebook and share every meme and every dumb thing all day long.
Yeah, totally.
Spread revenge porn just for fun.
Now here's a tale of two cities. There's Windsor, Ontario, right across the border.
Yes.
And then just south of that in the county, which is more like where you guys are from. It's more like rural, which is where I grew up.
In the boonies.
In the boonies. So you got Windsor, which is the Motor City of Canada. You've always had a good supply of jobs there. There's also a lot of sick people. I mean, like 1 in 2 people in Windsor has fucking cancer.
Jesus.
I mean, it's off the charts.
What, was there some kind of manufacturing besides like all the automotives on this side of the river?
Suppliers, right? So the paint, the asbestos brake makers, all the good stuff. You know what I mean? Anything you want, any cool shit you want in your lungs and in your bloodstream, you can get it in Windsor. You just work in a factory. And I'm talking, I think they shut down the Raybestos plant or whatever it was that made the brake pads. I think they just shut that plant back down like in the last 10 years or something.
Really?
I remember when I was a kid, the fucking paint factory caught on fire.
That always helps the air
Isn't that-
No big
quality.
deal. No big deal.
Okay, and you know the trays?
This is fine.
Yeah, you know the trays that the seedlings grow in the greenhouses? They're black.
Yeah.
And they're made of polyethylene,
Yeah.
is it? Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Plastic. Of
So
some
a
sort.
factory full of those fucking
Oh.
burned.
Oh,
They burned
no.
for days and days.
For
and
days even.
and days.
And that stuff just
Yikes.
And there was a
just
black
putrid,
there was
noxious
a black
fumes.
cloud over the
Petroleum
whole town.
fumes. That's what
Yeah.
I want in my lungs.
Yeah. So, and then, we've got Monroe across the lake. It's just a chemical soup. There's an island over here just in the Detroit River between Detroit and Windsor called Zug Island.
Okay.
And I remember my friends and I tried to get close to it with a video camera one time. We got chased away
Really?
because apparently it's like a Hieronymus Bosch painting. It's like hell, chemical hell.
Yikes.
I mean, it's just all this
Wasteland.
garbage
Scorched earth.
scum. Yeah. Like it's probably, did you ever hear about the blob that was growing in the lake or in Sarnia, Ontario back in the 80s or 90s?
No,
There's
I
a
haven't.
fucking blob of chemicals growing
Oh my God.
out of control. I don't know what it's like now,
So
but I remember when we were
just
kids.
algae just feeding off this weird environment from
I
these
don't know.
chemicals
Or
It's all
chemicals that
sticking
came to life.
together.
It was like the movie The Blob. It was literally like the movie The Blob. Right. So anyway, back to Windsor. Compare the county, the southern part of like Windsor and Essex County is Essex County.
Okay.
So you got mostly the county, and then you got Windsor across the top north part. And Windsor is very strong labor union town. they always vote for the unions. Like, I mean, they always vote for the parties that the union supports, which is the NDP, the New Democratic Party, which is the Socialist Party in Canada.
Okay.
They don't call themselves that.
Yeah.
And when the jobs are gone, when they get taken to Mexico or overseas, I mean, they go out and strike, and then they demand that they get their welfare, you know? Like, that's the mentality in Windsor. I want my free healthcare. I want my welfare. I want to work as little as I can. I worked in the Chrysler factory when I was just finishing up high school. And I mean, you go in there, you have an 8-hour shift, and I was responsible for like buffing the scratches off of the cars. Some of them get scratched in the process.
Yeah.
I just take sandpaper and like soften it up or whatever,
Yeah.
smooth it over, and then it goes to the next guy to do something too. So I do that 8 cars a night, right? 8 in 8 hours. It comes by, I just go, that car's done. It takes less than a minute.
So what
8
did
minutes.
you do the rest of the
I
time?
worked for 8 minutes in an 8-hour shift
Wow.
and made, I think, $30 an hour back then. And that was in
Sounds
1998.
great.
Yeah, it's super simple. But I mean, that's what they've been coddled into.
Yeah.
And like, these people can't be fired. They're
That's
so
the problem
protected.
right there.
Mhm.
And there's nothing more expected
There's
of
no
them. The bar
consequences.
is so fucking low. Like, all they want is to be put into a pod and fed
Yeah,
nutrients.
I don't
And-
want to really do anything. I'll show up, my body will be here, but my mind is somewhere else, and pay
Yeah.
me.
Exactly. So I think what we're really seeing here, this is beyond statecraft and politics. We're getting to the realm now. Like, America is on the brink of a civil war right now. I think so. As an outsider watching, that's the benefit of being a Canadian, is you're watching the US. You're not in it.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like
Yeah,
in this
that outsider.
intelligence agent position of watching without being involved. Now, Canada is a swamp. Okay. I'm not saying Canada is any better than the US. It's way worse, but it's smaller. And in the US, like, because Canada doesn't have the constitution that you guys have in the States.
No, not at all.
That's a fundamental problem. And we've talked about that in other episodes, so I won't get into it, but check out episode 9, the Canada episode,
Yeah.
for all the deficiencies in Canada's treatment of constitutional rights. And then back to my point about the US, Bob posted an article on Facebook a couple weeks ago about the cold civil war that's happening in the US right now between the left and the right, between everybody who's supporting making America great again.
And the left and right are both crumbling at the same time
Mhm.
because no one has any singularity that they really want to go for. I mean, you have
Because nobody's coming out and saying what this is really about.
No.
And I'm going to say it right now. You know what this is really about? This is about the damn war that's been going on throughout history. And it's never been about whose idea is right and whose idea is wrong. It's all about who's in charge.
who's in charge.
It's
That's
all about
always.
who's in charge.
Always.
He's got the power.
Yeah. And the battle now is between the capital M man and the small m man.
Mm.
Okay. The capital M man says, get off my property. I'll take care of myself. I'll grow my own food. I'll protect my own family. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
If my family gets sick, I'll get some magnesium and feed it to them, and they'll be fine. I don't need your pharmaceuticals.
I'll spread my ashes on my field and I'll grow food that feeds my family properly. I'll get my good nutrition. I'll
Yep.
figure it out.
I don't need you to come and inject my children with vaccines.
I'll create an economy in my small community that
Mhm.
supports us.
Yep. So there's that, and it feels kind of like, as an outsider, it looks like people are sort of rallying around their counties, because Chelsea was saying earlier, the
Mhm.
county sheriff is a really, really powerful position.
Always in every county throughout the United States. And it was
Mhm.
set up that way so the federal government couldn't swoop in and basically place troops wherever they wanted.
Right. So that's where the dividing lines are, is between those who say, I'm going to take care of myself and my family. No problem. I got this. Fuck you. And then the other side, these are the people that were so upset after Hillary lost, and they were Bernie supporters too, is
Don't
like,
trigger me.
don't trigger me. I want my free university, my free healthcare. I want everything free, free, free. I want to be able to ban any kind of speech that hurts my feelings.
Bullshit.
Right? That's what it's all about.
Mhm.
Is the people that need to live in the bubble, and they're scared as shit now because there's a businessman in the White House who thinks like a businessman, And he's already getting rid of a whole bunch of these support systems that were powdering these people's butts.
They're not just afraid, they're furious.
Mm-hmm.
They're pissed.
Okay, it's like taking candy from a baby. That's why. I mean, you're giving your kid candy, and
I'm
all of a
addicted to
sudden,
sugar, and I want more now.
exactly.
Which
And
is just
you're
like
saying,
a crack addiction.
Junior, I'm confiscating all your candy. You're never getting it back.
Yep. So I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna sneak out in the middle of the night and rob somebody so I can get some somehow, and then I'm gonna gorge.
Mm-hmm.
So now everybody is just spewing hate everywhere, trying to get some kind of singularity going on the left and the right. The right is crumbling. The Republicans are squabbling. They don't know what they're doing. The left is, you had your Bernie supporters, and then you had your Hillary supporters. So there's a division there. A lot of the left just thinks that all politics and all business, banking, is all corrupt. So we're going to start anarchy in the streets right now, and we're going to start from the ground up. Is that really going to ever take off? Is there any kind of organization to it at all? As of yet, no. There's just a lot of people on the interweb
just bitching, venting.
It's just pure pushing against.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's just no, I don't want that. It's not looking towards a solution. That's why the Democratic National Committee is going bankrupt.
That's true.
They have no vision. When you have no more vision to sell, that's it.
When there's no working together, there's no finding a common ground and let's all work together to make this thing happen. We're too busy squabbling over the vocabulary we're using to talk about these ideas. We can't even figure out what we're even talking about in the first place. Mm-hmm. How do we agree on something when your words offended me? I can't even handle it.
Yeah.
How are you ever going to get to the next step of actually executing something or making a real difference in what you're actually trying to fix when you're too busy being butthurt and upset about the words that are triggering you? That whole culture is just ridiculous.
A victim culture.
Just victims.
The little man victim.
And then there's certain countries that don't have a First Amendment in place, like Canada, for example. They've already gone hard to work as soon as Trump got elected, putting in crazy laws like the anti-Islamophobia motion in the Canadian Parliament right now.
Explain that. What does that involve?
Islamophobia is pretty just general. You hurt my feelings because I'm Islamic. It's crazy. You won't be able to criticize that religion at all. And even if you weren't going out of your way to criticize them, if they feel like they've been criticized, that's enough. They can go to Canada has a human rights tribunal, and it's basically butthurt court. Mm-hmm. If you've been butthurt, come to the Human Rights Tribunal. Yikes. And we'll this is the thing about Canada is it's always celebrated the handicapped, the weak, the butthurt. Okay. And it's now it's being legislated in that you can't talk bad about certain groups of people. But either way, you can still, and even if before those laws, if you butthurt somebody, they can say, oh, it's because I'm an Indian, or oh, it's because I'm black.
Maybe you're just an asshole.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to call you an asshole because you're a Muslim.
I might go to jail.
I can go to jail.
Yeah.
Yikes.
And then the other one that got passed under Trudeau is this gender pronoun thing. If you call someone by the wrong gender pronoun in Canada, you have committed a crime.
And there's no dialogue. Actually, I prefer to be called he. You called me a she. I understand that you might be confused based on what you see in front of you, but there's no room for that conversation. That's not okay.
No, because what they really want you to use are those other generic, non-gender pronouns like it, you,
How is it not more offensive?
Exactly.
It is super offensive. Like a lamp is it.
Yeah.
Like that chair is it. People, if you call a person it, how is that not worse? I don't understand. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, in a world where people are marrying light bulbs and becoming furries, anything's possible.
Yeah, furries.
I've seen some sexy light bulbs.
Yeah. I've seen some sexy furries. It's not my cup of tea.
Man. So in Canada, it's gotten to the point where they're actually legislating this
Yeah.
literal bullshit.
Yeah.
And nobody can say that. Nobody can raise their hand and be like, "This is all bullshit." Well, no, you're in trouble now. Like, good job.
Yeah, so there's no dialogue. It's just
There's no dialogue. So what happened is overnight, the left, or whatever you want to call them, the butthurt, became the new Puritans. They're puritanical. They're the ones all of a sudden who are censoring. Back in the day, it used to be the Republicans. It used to be the conservatives who take out their revolver and shoot the TV when Elvis came on because it was, vile and a desecration.
Yeah.
Right? That he was gyrating his hips.
And now the drag queens are the ones legislating.
Yeah,
Alternative.
exactly.
Yeah.
They used to be the edgy ones, and now they're the ones trying to legislate morality and legislate their way out of their butthurt situation.
Being totalitarian.
Mhm.
That's all they're doing.
So,
It's like we're getting rid of the old emperor and we're becoming the emperor.
mhm.
And what I say goes.
Well, that's
No one
hyper-
wins in there.
Hyper liberal lingo that nobody knows. How would you begin to navigate this? How do you even
Well, have you
use
ever?
the right vocabulary?
You've been to
talk
California. When was?
someone?
Didn't you go to
I
California
lived
recently?
in California for 3
No, but didn't you
years.
visit
I
again?
visited it last summer. Yes.
Yeah, like I mean, I don't know if you got anywhere near LA or
Yeah.
places like that, but
Mhm.
everybody in LA at any given time in history seems to know all the lingo.
Yeah.
Right? They're always the ones talking all the, it's not just vegan anymore. It's like you're like this subgroup of
Mhm.
veganism into this like really narrow chamber where you're just a sproutopian or something. Like you only eat sprouts. Sproutarian.
I don't know any about like the dieting stuff specifically. I know some people that are vegan, but I know there's all of these gender pronouns, cis, hep, all of this stuff.
fuck?
Have you heard of
And-
all that? Yeah.
And the funny
Oh, it's
thing is,
coming.
in my experience, I know a few transgender people, and I have some really very close gay friends, and they don't ever talk about anything to do with this. And if
No.
you use the wrong pronoun, they don't get butthurt. They don't care. They call each other fag and bitch and you queen, you queer. Like, it's funny. They're giving each other, razzing each other like you would your friends. Like, there's room for that. But in media, oh no. When you put that on social media, that opens up this world of rage from all of these people who are sitting alone in their rooms with nothing else to do but hate you.
Yeah.
So that's when you get this hyper reactive bullshit. But in my personal experience with people who actually live in a world where this should matter, they don't actually care.
Well, there you
It
go,
doesn't even
right
matter to
there.
them.
How many people? I don't think there really are many people who live that way, talking in the 75 different gender pronouns.
It's the fake news.
It's the fake news. And they've been caught so many times staging what MJ calls these, what are they called? Something Actors Guild? Government Actors Guild, right? So there's these
Trauma actors, I
the
think.
trauma actors, the crisis actors.
Crisis, there you
There
go.
it is.
They keep being reused. Every time there's some new point that they want to make, it's like, okay, get that token like brown guy, get that token like yellow guy in here, get that token like white, angry, purple social justice warrior hair woman in here, right? We need to make a point. And yeah, it's not even the 1% of people. It's probably way less than
It's
that.
way less.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
pure indoctrination of a new way of making people lose their identity. At the end of the day,
Propaganda.
it's like, okay, in Canada, the prime minister already declared that Canada is first post-national state. Okay, so there's no sense of nationalism. Right on the eve of America voting for nationalism, this is like the most horrible schism between the two countries that I think has ever happened. But so Trudeau has taken away people's national identity. Okay, now he's legislating that you have to use all these crazy gender pronouns. So he's taking away people's sense of like, are you
Personal
male,
identity.
female anymore? Or that's fluid? Okay. I wonder what I am today. So that's the second part of their identity that's gone, is their gender, their identification.
So what do they have left?
I mean,
After that, I mean, then you become nothing. That's where
Right.
life doesn't have value.
but this is why there's independence movements happening. Like Alberta, Trudeau forgot to mention Alberta on Canada's birthday. Big birthday party in the nation's capital, and he said like all the names of the other provinces, and he left out Alberta, which the Trudeau family have always hated Alberta. They think they call Albertans rednecks and things like that, and Alberta really is a colony of Ottawa. It's just a colony. where they just rape all the natural resources. And once the cycle of the price of oil going up and down is over, it's like, go fuck yourself, Alberta. We're done with you. And then people move back, businesses move back to Ontario, where the nation's capital is. And they wait for the next time that the price of oil goes up, and then the wave goes back out there again. Grab everything they can, take it back east. So all this taking people's identity away is resulting in identities being retrieved. So that's creating new senses of regional nationalism. So there's even like British Columbia is the westernmost province of Canada. It's like California. And that's kind of splitting into two halves.
So people are creating their own identities.
Yeah, they're starting to say, like, I'm not Canadian, I'm Albertan.
Well, it's funny you mentioned this, because around home, have you noticed, Kevin, there's been a huge outsurgence of like Ohio shirts and Ohio, especially local ones, like not just Ohio the state, not just Ohio State like the sports team, like Mercer County specifically, like this little tiny itty bitty town, like, oh, my shirt says literally like Maria Stein on it, and it's the tiniest little town in the middle of nowhere, but everybody there's like, yeah, Maria Stein. Like people are all collecting their own and creating their own identity around where they live and what they do every day, instead of this overall idea of what America is, because everybody's so divided.
Right.
So much division and so much anger. So they're looking towards what is safe and what is known and what is
and what they really are.
And what they really are.
And what they are is basically the land where you are on the earth. I mean, that's your home.
Well, it's what you can put your finger on. It's what you can see with your eyes without having to use a telescope, you know? Like, I don't remember which emperor it was in Rome said, you can only govern like as far as your eye can see. Anything bigger beyond that is crazy. Napoleon was he wasn't going to get involved in North America, really. That's why he sold Louisiana, like all the Louisiana Purchase land, is because, you know what, I've learned you can't govern these far-flung regions. You got to have local government.
Representation.
Yeah, he had a horrible experience in Haiti, where it was a revolution basically in Haiti, and the French soldiers had to go in there and clean it up. And he realized, like, what are we even doing this for? I mean, like, why are we killing all these people in Haiti? They don't want us to govern them. So fuck it. We're out of here. I'm not going to do this anymore.
So he's like, make money and get rid of this burden and continue to like function at home where I can see.
Exactly. And that's what they did.
Make money over there. Yeah. Screw them. Make money, walk away.
That was the point with the Haitian Revolution or whatever it was. There was a local like Haitian who started an uprising, and France had to go and deal with it, right? And then when in dealing with it, Napoleon's like, well, it wasn't even that. It was just like Napoleon kind of felt bad about having to kill all these people. He thought about the principles behind it. What are we doing here?
Yeah, we're just creating genocide here.
Is this the kind of empire we want? Like, this is like the British. This is the way the British do things. This is not the French way of doing things. Mm-hmm. So after that, that's when he decided, I'm not getting involved in America. If Napoleon would have got involved, Canada, like the part of Canada I come from, would be part of the United States.
So you think America would have had the Great Lakes region, basically?
Yeah. The part that dips down below the 49th parallel, America wouldn't have lost that. The British wouldn't have kept that. If they would have had Napoleon to come in. But he was busy. He had his own wars to deal with, and he'd already decided, you know what, I'm going to stick to Europe. I'm a land guy. He didn't do well in naval battles. The British were way more dominant in naval battles, like with Nelson and all that. So he stuck to what he learned with maturity. What I'm good at is land war, and I'm going to do that to the greatest extent of our actual capabilities instead of overshooting. And he even gave up on trying to go back and reconquer areas in the Middle East that they had taken and then lost. It's like, forget about it. Right? So what I'm seeing now is when you start taking people's identity away, and you've got a situation like Chelsea mentioned where on the federal level, it's just hate between two sides. Then what do? You reinvent your identity from the bottom up.
Well, people kind of feel lost without it. I mean, a lot of Americans are very religious, and so they just stick to that, not even regional identities. But on the other hand, there is a lot of regional identities. There is a lot of, well, for one example, the state of Ohio actually has a solid budget. We are
One of 6 states, I think, in the whole union.
one
that
of
is-
6 states
The
that
budget is square.
Wow.
we actually have a profit.
I
Now,
bring that up every time I hear people complain about our governor. And I was like, you know what? He might be doing this to education. He might be doing this to whatever else, but our roads and our infrastructure are fine. It was like
Yeah.
the bridges aren't going to collapse from underneath us. And I was like,
You're not
Our
gonna
sys- our
you're not
system
gonna end up like
actually works.
Illinois.
yes.
that's exactly what I was going to talk about.
things might be wrong, but we're not going to collapse. Like we still have room to wiggle. And I was like, and if that's all we can do compared to everybody else, let's keep doing that. That's totally fine with
Yeah.
me. Like I like my roads to work. I like my water to be clean, and I like my infrastructure to be solid. It's good for me.
Yeah.
Everything else you can navigate around within your personal life, within your personal sphere. You can work around a lot of those problems. But if the roads are falling apart and the bridges are collapsing, what are you
and
gonna
commerce doesn't
do?
exist.
Commerce doesn't exist. What are you going to do?
Yeah,
Mhm.
then you have people starving in the streets and rioting.
And that's why you live in America instead of in a third world country.
Exactly. That is
Respect
the
those
difference.
Well, and the division of our states, whenever you see all the media talking about all these different legislations, like people are going after our guns. That's a huge thing around home because everybody's so rural and everybody has guns, tons of them. And you may not think it, but every 5th house probably has a huge cache. Like people have huge caches of weapons. And it's not because they're crazy, it's because they can. And they've been investing in this with their families, have been investing in this for generations. Like these guns get handed down from family to family or traded from family to family. And whenever, well, Hillary's going to take all her guns, and everybody's just like, let her try.
Yeah.
Let her try.
Yeah. How are you ever going to get
How are you
those?
ever going to get them all? Come for it.
Mhm.
See what happens. And that's when back to the sheriffs. Like,
Yeah.
our sheriff would never.
Well, there were quite a few sheriffs that were on the national stage during Trump's campaign,
Oh,
like
sure.
Sheriff David Clark. Remember, he would like.
I
pretty
keep thinking of the
prominently-
guy in Arizona.
Yeah, is it
Um,
Sheriff Joe or something?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe so.
Sounds right.
But everyone loves him down in Arizona, but he gets on the national stage and all of a sudden he's the worst guy in America just because he actually makes his inmates work, which is like frowned upon. Like, you can't do that. They should just sit in a box all day.
Well, then in Arizona too, they have outside. They're all sleeping under canopies, and it's like 115 degrees, and they're all in canopies outside.
Hmm.
So, well, that's cruel and unusual punishment. It was like the people that they attacked and raped and murdered. Like that was unusual and cruel for them. Let them sleep outside. Sorry, like welcome to Arizona.
Yeah, shouldn't have did that.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You're a criminal.
Yeah.
Oops. Like,
This is not a place you want to fuck around.
no.
No, not at all. And I think because he rules, quote unquote, rules his county like that, they have much less crime. Being on the
People-
border
people in
right
this county
there.
Love him.
Yeah. I mean, whenever you're dealing with cartels, where do you even begin?
Oh,
Where
wow.
cartels will just chop people's heads off and mail it to you.
Yeah.
It's really, really scary.
Well, I was telling you guys
People
earlier.
don't do well in Arizona.
I don't think they would.
No.
No way. When I was down there,
yeah, you've had some experience there.
everybody's carrying down there.
Oh yeah.
You know, and they can conceal or not conceal.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Constitutional carry state, God-given right.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
But I mean, I felt safer in Arizona than I did in Hawaii.
So what was the big difference there? Just for the simple fact that most people were armed?
Okay, well, let's take an example. I mean, Hawaii is beautiful. It's paradise. Okay, no doubt, it's beautiful. But there's people there. Okay, places are beautiful, but it's the people that can make them not beautiful.
Yeah,
People
for sure.
suck.
Yeah, and I mean, like, there's a lot of hoi polloi tourists, and you know, they're just, you can tell they're not very bright people. It's just like, it doesn't attract the most sophisticated kind of tourists. And there's this one part of Maui that we walked to, like, it was not too far from our condo. We had to go there to go to this one grocery store, and I mean, it's like, it looks like the Night of the Living Dead. I mean, it's just crazy. And I don't remember seeing anything like that in Arizona. I don't.
Really?
The
I didn't
shop
see
itself or the people in the,
the
shop?
people.
Were
It's
they
the people that make
All
it.
addicts, like
Yeah.
hobos.
They just look. It reminds me of Skid Row in Vancouver, where you've got people who are like, their bodies are contorted, and you know, they're just fucking jonesing for something.
No.
And they, as soon as the sun starts to go down a little bit, they come out and they're just kind of harassing you in a way with their presence.
Yeah.
You know.
I think I
And
saw a couple of those on the Detroit streets whenever we pulled in here, but
yeah, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. But okay, so that's just a really good example there of Hawaii is a Hillary state. It's a blue state. Apparently, they have the best welfare in America too.
Really?
Yeah, they have a really good
Jobs are hard to come by there.
I'm sure
see.
that's helping their economy,
Yeah.
having all that welfare. Really motivating people to.
I mean,
well
think of it.
themselves.
Everything has to be shipped there. Besides what is
yeah.
grown there, the expense
water has to
is
be drinking
ridiculous.
water. Every bottle of drinking water that I had in Maui for the whole
Shipped
time
in
I was
from the
there,
States.
shipped in from the mainland.
Yeah,
You know, like-
it's not sustainable.
Like, why not get your fat ass together with some of your friends and come up with a way to treat water and like have local water? I mean, like, use your fucking brain and do
Because the
something.
water rights are highly contested.
Oh, that's
people
true, too.
Own
Yeah.
the indigenous people sold off huge tracts of the land generations ago, not knowing any better and thinking, "Oh, this will be great." And now it's all condos and hotels,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nowhere for people to farm or live or
Yeah.
get clean water because it's all being made into money for rich people.
Yeah, Nestle like pulled in and
Yep.
started sucking it all up, which is a big deal around Canada, even where a
Yeah.
lot of the water rights have been gobbled up by multinationals.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings back to how multinationals corrupt government. I mean, they get their hands on lobbyists and then they start supporting statesmen with large amounts of cash to vote different ways.
While simultaneously misinforming the mass public
Mhm.
about
There's always that
what
too.
they're making or what they're selling or what's in it.
Yeah. Well, go back to the example of aspartame, right?
Mm.
Aspartame, the sweetener. Donald Rumsfeld, who worked for did he work with the first Bush administration or Reagan? I think it was Reagan administration.
I think he was in with Monsanto for a while too, but nonetheless.
Okay,
go on.
so he held I can't remember if he wasn't Secretary of Defense though for Reagan, but he was pretty high up.
He was in the maybe cabinet, but
Yeah, he
Bush,
was-
whenever Bush was in
Okay.
around 9/11, that's
Okay,
when
but no, I'm
Rumsfeld
talking
was
before
really big.
George W. Bush. I mean, this
Okay.
is like Reagan Bush days. He used to work for, or he had this high post in the government, and then he went to work for Searle, which is the company that created aspartame. And apparently, he got it pushed through the FDA like lightning fast. Right?
Imagine that.
This is a food. Let's get it out there. It's the greatest thing since sugar, you know? And they just shortcutted it to the market and got this stuff out there. And now we know how great aspartame is now. So that is like that's one of the perfect examples of
what actually kills brain cells.
Yeah.
And it's addictive.
Yeah,
And it
but-
hardens your arteries, which is always good.
That's always
You
fun.
don't want your veins to be flexible. You want them to be stiff,
Yeah.
obviously.
and calcified.
Mhm.
That's good for you.
hmm And then conversely to that is like, magnesium, which there's millions of people who say magnesium helped their heart arrhythmia. It helped them with the rheumatoid arthritis. It helped them, control their weight because it's, it helps the thyroid and things like that. But no doctors who've seen these results are allowed to make these claims. Because if they do, then they're going to present magnesium as if it's a drug. And then it falls under the FDA Act. It has to go through the whole process
The whole
of becoming a
testing and
drug
being patented
and costs millions of dollars per product.
yeah. It's insane how it's really set up.
Mhm. But it goes back to, what is the FDA? It's another one of these agencies that was created to protect people from themselves.
In
Yeah.
quotes, protect.
Protect. But all they're really protecting are the lobbyists,
Yes.
right? They're really
The
protecting
profits
the biggest interests of
of the
all.
lobbyists.
And then I was talking to my brother yesterday about his, he's a small business. He's the typical small business guy. He started out of his garage, started a produce business, and he has to deal with all the compliance, right? There has to be this like food safety chain of custody. And in order to do this, to be able to actually supply supermarkets, now you've got to go through it's going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars
Mm.
because you have to have, your facility has to have cameras and
Mhm.
has every step of the way has to be monitored. So it's basically you're bringing in 9/11 level security, post
Yeah.
9/11 security
Yeah.
into the fucking cucumber business because somebody might want to inject cucumbers with anthrax and kill everybody when they're eating salad.
People
Wonderful.
don't eat salads. Who eats salads anyway?
Yeah, pretty soon they'll have like big machines that irradiate your food right at the farm that will
But
cost
nobody
millions.
cares that the McDonald's that everybody's engulfing 24/7 is literally devoid of any nutrients and it's slowly killing everything.
Or the cola.
Yeah.
Cola in
Oh
like
my
in Mexico and in South America, it's drink more than water.
Yeah,
right?
because
Coca-Cola.
it's actually clean. Like they can ingest it. Now, long term, it's going to kill them, and it's bloated with sugar, of course. But how do you get clean water in a third world?
Mhm.
Yeah, open a Coke. Apparently,
Yeah.
Ship it in.
ship it in.
Thanks, nicely.
Yeah, there you go.
So the little guy who wants to start a business and either sell them, make their own supplements and sell them, or sell produce, they're
they're being priced out of the market.
being
they can't
priced out of the
function
market by regulation.
by regulation.
Because as soon as he was actually telling me a story, there's a community just near Windsor in Canada called Bell River, and they had fruit stands. You got tons of fruit stands out in the country in Ohio, right? You drive it, buy some corn, some
Amish.
potatoes, and you're off on your way. Well, the people love fruit stands, but they started coming out with these really awesome fruit stands with more of a variety of stuff, and they had pies and stuff like that, and it was starting to become a really big thing. It's like dozens and dozens of these new awesome fruit stands, and the local supermarkets, which are in Canada, there's only 2 supermarket chains.
That's it.
Two in the whole country.
Really?
Yeah.
Yikes.
So those guys got mad and they're like, hey, wait a minute, you're taking away a lot of our business. So we're going to go to the city council and we're going to get them to ban fruit stands. And they almost did it. They almost banned fucking roadside fruit stands that
That's
have been
crazy.
around since the beginning of time.
Yeah.
See, in
For
LA,
sure.
it's not even a stand. It's a guy on a truck. He just drives around with a truckload of fruit, and you just wave him down.
Yeah.
And he pulls over, and you tell him in Spanish whatever you want, and he just takes your cash and rolls away. And
Like
you've
the-
got cases of whatever you want. I'll take a watermelon, and I'll take some of this lemons, and I want this yucca or the jicama and all this other stuff. Guy on a truck. And if somebody did that around home, it would be like,
Permits.
oh my god.
Permits.
Well, they'd just be afraid of him because we're in the middle of nowhere. Where did
Oh.
you come from?
Why are you here?
What's wrong with this stuff that you're selling it to us? Like stranger danger. Because I don't know you. You're not from my little community.
Yeah.
So it's like it's safe. It's nice that it's a little community, but it's also stranger danger. I'm
Right.
afraid of everything.
Yeah.
Don't
A lot
answer
of
the
fear-
door if
a
you
lot
don't
of
know
fear
who it
involved.
So
is.
you have
Yeah.
a lot, you probably don't have a lot of big name stores there though, do you?
There are, but
We have to
it's
drive
regional,
like
and you have to
60
drive.
miles,
You have to go away.
80 miles to wherever. And then you can get your Whole Foods in.
But there's gardens everywhere.
Yeah.
So basically the story of small business. Now, Obama and Hillary and George W. Bush and all these politicians have always said, I'm here to help bring up the small business. Small business is like Obama said, small business is what America runs on, right? That's the heart of America. Bullshit. The story of a small business person in North America is you start a business on your own. You have all this optimism. You're going to create a family dynasty. Eventually, you're going to take care of your family with all the money you're making. But then eventually, as soon as you get a little bit too big,
Yep.
you step on the wrong foot and you draw the attention of either a big business that's doing what you do that feels threatened, or you get on the radar of an agency like the FDA.
Or the IRS.
Or
Or the IRS.
All of a sudden,
You
your
walk-
taxes go from 30% to 50%.
You walk this very
And you're
fine
like, what?
line of so much of your business is cash and you hide that, and the
Mhm.
rest of it is on paper, and you talk to your accountant, and you get a good accountant, and you keep it on the level so that you don't draw enough attention
Yeah.
to get anybody to come and swoop in and actually rip that out from under.
Well, a lot of small businesses, they'll have a tax rate of 20% in Ohio. Now you go to Illinois, all of a sudden income tax for everyone, not just businesses, for everyone, because they're bankrupt, is 31%, I believe, right now.
Hmm.
So what is the incentive to stay in that state? What is the incentive for anyone to start a business there? They're over legislating. They're pushing solutions that will become problems very quickly. And then ultimately, they'll still have no money because all your big players are going to disappear.
Hmm.
So how do you actually get out of that? Make an environment that's friendly for the small businessman. Make an environment friendly for businesses in other states to move in and open new things and to build new things.
But that would mean walking back all this legislation, walking back all
And the rhetoric.
this
They'll have
And-
to take back the
and having
rhetoric.
to-
And the revenue
change.
that they're getting from
Yeah.
these taxes, and I mean, like once you have it, the floodgates are open. You can't shut them. I mean, like we've smacked into the problem again. The problem is the very representatives in government that were put there in the first place to support the will of the individual. Okay, because it always goes back to these people. They cost money to have the civil servants. They cost us money,
They do.
right? And it's a whole industry of its own. Lawmaking is an
completely.
industry now.
Oh, it has
That's
been
where you
for a
go to get
long
rich. I mean, look at Nancy Pelosi. She started with nothing and just did politics her entire life.
Mhm.
How many millions does she have on the books now? Where did
And
where did that come from?
Feinstein.
time.
Yeah.
Feinstein.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
very normal for the senator, whoever, to show up and, hey, I can do insider trading now. My buddy's on this board. Guess what? I found out about this new product before anybody, and I'm banking now.
Yeah.
Oh, and never mind. I get retirement no matter how long I serve in the House or the Senate for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
I get health care given to me for the rest of my life. There's a lot of big perks just for getting into government. The other thing is anybody that works in the government sector that is a supplier for the government, the military, all of these companies that makes machines for the military. I mean, there are just billions of dollars in contracting.
Have you ever gone to that site, the DoD contracts site?
I haven't actually.
Oh, it's
I've heard of
interesting.
it, but
You should at least check it out once. I think it's just called. You just Google DoD contracts.
yeah,
and
where you
'cause
bid
it's-
for a job, basically.
I don't know what stage it's at. I think this is more of the ones that have just been awarded.
Oh, okay.
So it's a stream, pretty like every day there's a list of them put out. Here's the contracts that were won today. And it shows like this 110 million, 10 million, 60 million, 70 million, 500 million.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, that is massive industry.
Yeah.
I actually just talked to one of my buddies who got into a defense contracting corporation. I forget which one, but they built submarines. He was an engineer. He worked in San Diego. He was making six figures right out of college. Boom. You try to do that in Ohio at just let's say a car factory, you're not making six figures. You're making at least half that for sure. And that gap right there is just really, really crazy. That really shows the colors of the deep state. The other aspect is whenever you work for the government, you sign your rights as an American citizen away
Oh, really?
completely because you can't give out state secrets. That is a jailable crime for anyone that works in that realm. So there is a large portion of our population that are defense contractors that, one, they really have no constitutional rights. They work and are a part of the deep state for life. They can't get out of it because if you're working on a project that is secret at any level, you're in. You're in for life. It's like joining the mob.
Mhm.
You're not getting out unless you die. So whenever you have a group of people that basically have to follow their corporate leaders, it's a sub-state. It's the deep state.
Mhm.
And they're just feeding off of the rest of the taxpayers of America. I mean, if that isn't a huge divide going on right now, I don't know what is. And I don't believe most people really understand that.
Well, you never talk about. Nobody ever talks about that.
No,
That
not at
whole
all.
Sector.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a tough situation. The biggest fuck you in history was on November 9th last year when Americans said, fuck you, Hillary, fuck you, globalism. We want our nation back,
Mhm.
right? But people are focusing on what they can see. Okay, they're building a wall. bringing jobs back to America, increasing military power again. Like, I have relatives in California that work at Lockheed Martin. You know what I mean? Like, I have relatives here in Michigan who all serve in the armed forces. Like, even though I'm not an American, I have like U.S. military industrial complex in my family.
Yeah.
It's so big.
It is. It's massive.
What I mean? It's everywhere. So when we talk about
everywhere.
defense, you just think like, okay, on the way home, you're going to pass by at least one defense supplier.
Oh yeah,
right?
Whether they're making satellites or they
Yeah.
make tanks in Lima, Ohio that serve all around the world. I mean, that is basically a money-making factory for the United States government because selling arms is one of the biggest industries in America, for America.
But my point is, it's stuff you can see.
Yeah.
It's there. That's the non-deep state part of it. And that's all people can focus on. I mean, that's why you're going back to the county level of identification.
Yeah.
So
And smaller.
and
County
smaller. But what about all the stuff people can't see that's having a bigger impact? I mean, like everything that was talked about in the election and ever since then is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, it goes way fucking deeper than those issues.
For sure. I think there's a lot of rhetoric about one, being a globalist, and two, being patriotic. So there's this dichotomy in the military right now where, well, I mean, if you're in the military, of course you're going to be patriotic. You would think, at least 99% of the people there are. But once you get out of that, then you start to have other views that aren't nationalistic. They're not pro-America or whatever government these military people are working for. So I think government in its smallest form that can really represent a people, and adding in some kind of technological aspect where live democracy can actually take place, I think that is going to be the real future.
Well, we've already seen a prototype. It was the 2016 presidential election. So Twitter, without Twitter, Trump wouldn't have won.
No, not at all.
No
that
way.
direct
That was
interaction
his
with people.
microphone and
That
mouth.
was his microphone.
Because when they first started, apparently his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, he ran all the like super high-tech polling and everything. So they could tell like, these counties matter. These counties
like
go for there. And Hillary's team didn't have that. Okay. So this was a technological arms race using like even stuff like deep learning, AI, to predict what's coming next kind of thing in the wave of support. So, but before they got to that high tech level, it was literally just like Trump and I can't remember the guy's name now. And he's head of Trump's social media. It's an Italian name. It's like Scolini or something. Anyway, it was just like Trump, this social media guy, and one other guy, and they're just working their Twitter account. And that was pretty much it. And what he did was he did a prototype of this like pure form of democratic republic where you say something and then you get a reaction in real time and you can gauge. You can just put here, let's shoot this tracer shot and see how it goes. Boom, everyone loves it. Everyone hates it, whatever. So you have this instant feedback. So the real story of the 2016 election isn't that Trump got elected and Hillary didn't. It isn't about make America great again. It's about pure democracy, direct, pure democratic republic for the very first time. It's never happened until now. That's the real story.
In real time.
So if you were to take that system and actually turn it into a system of its own, rather than just borrowing Twitter and Reddit and things like that, and actually turn it into its own system, it becomes like, just like you're saying, Kevin, a pure democratic republic where anybody can see. This is the thing now, is to get something turned into a bill, it has to be sponsored by a congressman.
Yeah.
Right? At the very least.
Usually.
A group of congressmen, or at least one.
You need people to really sign on.
You need these guys who, they don't really care about Kevin and Chelsea. They care about
how am I going to get elected?
Well, but
do I have enough money to get reelected?
But they also care about their corporate backers.
Exactly. That's where the money comes from.
How do I keep their support?
Yeah. How do I keep the support of
not your support who's voting for me, the support of the money that is feeding into my system.
Exactly. And the appeal to the general public of people is not it doesn't even matter. It's there
No.
just as window dressing. It's nothing.
Mhm.
Okay. But the fact that the people hijack social media to vote out the globalists and the multicultural world view kind of people, it's just proof that this system could work if it was put into play.
And there's going to be messy around the edges for sure, but it could work better than what's happening now. It's like,
Well, you're bypassing where it's not working. The congressmen themselves and Congress itself.
that quagmire.
Yeah, and that'll never end. I mean, whether it's a fight for rhetoric or a fight for power or people getting paid off, there's always going to be this constant warring of not even ideals. It's just all propaganda. So bypassing that with a technology where people can, what you were talking about earlier, Chad, vote on your cell phones, basically, but yet still have your Constitution backing every individual.
Exactly. We go back to the pure principles in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. The only reason why the state should exist is to protect those rights. That's it. To protect them. Not to get creative and clever and what if
reinterpret
and reinterpret and
Legislating how people speak.
legislating morality and things like that, or let's just get involved in these infrastructure projects here, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but when it starts to be like certain corporations involved more so than others, like what happened with Halliburton, right? So we need to take the human being out of the process of lawmaking.
The middle.
take the middleman out.
The middleman. The middleman human being needs to be removed from the process.
Yeah.
Because it comes down to the vices of that human more so than anything. That's what always comes out.
Yeah.
Look at how many of these congressmen and or governors or mayors, like at every level, who get caught with their pants down.
Well, and there's no other way to do business anymore. If you're going to be in that position, that's just what the job is to be corrupt. There's no other way. You can try. I'm sure there are maybe less than 1% of government officials at a high rank that try to be morally in the right in their own mind, but the only way to do business is to get favors here and to pull strings there and to get paid here and to pay this out there. Like, it's never honest, and it can't be, and it can't stay that way. There's no other way to do business.
Yep. And that,
The whole
again,
system is
it's
broken.
the deep state part. It's the part people don't see. It's those meetings in the back room nobody sees.
Yeah.
It's not what
the
you're
smoky
seeing.
room.
Yeah,
Or the
it's
plane rides with teenage girls to other countries.
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to butter up a potential big donor for the next election, what better than to send him on on a private jet with a teenager?
Let's go to the Caymans and pick up some boys.
Oh, yeah.
So
Order some pizza.
it's gone way too far. People have already expressed they want someone to come in and clean it up and drain the swamp. But I mean, so what? You're going to have less? Like, less cancer is still cancer.
Well, and as soon as you cut
Yeah.
that cancer out, new cancer grows in.
Yeah.
You make that
exactly.
space, somebody else will be like, oh, I can do this. Step right in. Those people are all lined up, waiting in the wings to step right into that open hole.
Yeah.
They'll do the exact same job.
Mhm.
And gladly, because they know just how screwed up it is, because they've been the underlings this whole time.
It happens with every regime change.
Yeah.
And then there's people like what's his name, Fouché in Napoleon's days. He ended up becoming appointed as Napoleon's head of police. But before that, like when the French Revolution happened, first he was on the side of the loyalists to the crown, and then when he saw that they were starting to lose leverage, and he went over to the other side, the Jacobins. And then when the Jacobins they were about to get their heads cut off, then he switched to the other side. You know what I mean? So he went
Very
back
fair
back
weather.
and forth. And then even with Napoleon, he ended up being a turncoat against Napoleon when Napoleon started to decline.
Yeah.
So there's these people who
He's
just
just
get on.
he's just a politician.
He's
Yeah.
a survivalist. He's like, I'm going to live and I'm going to succeed no matter what you idiots are doing around me.
Yeah, exactly. So there's those folks who are just hanging on, and they're like the people that never leave high school.
Yeah. Everything's popularity contest, and I got the money, so I'm in charge.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if they're going to do democracy, what's everyone afraid of? Why not really? We have the tools now. We actually have the tools for democracy. It's never been realized before. So come on, big boy. You want to play democracy?
Let's
Do
it.
democracy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what you're doing today is not democracy anymore.
No.
It is not democracy. It's a representative democracy, but a representative orange is not an orange.
We want real fruit.
Yeah. So
What do you guys think? Have we solved the world's problems yet?
no, we never will. I'm sure people just go
I
on.
just don't care that much.
Yeah.
Well, I think later on, I think AI is going to play a big part in managing a lot of things. And why not manage government also?
Mhm.
If that can take any kind of corruption out, so be it. Thank goodness. And if a person could make a vote for a local election on their cell phone, awesome.
Well, fewer
Do it.
people-
People will actually vote then.
Fewer people means less corruption. So
Usually, yeah.
taking more people,
Take the human factor out.
taking more, like you said, taking more of the middlemen out of the equation is going to limit the purging and the leaking of all of this fun. It's all about the money. All this money is just pouring out of the government in directions where it doesn't get to where it's been
Yeah.
allotted.
Mhm.
Oh, it's
Or
for
managed.
this program.
It's never
Well, it's
managed
for this
well.
program, and it just disappears.
Exactly. So then the other side of it is, all right, government, you wonderful fundraisers coming to help everyone. Screw you. We have crowdfunding now.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
part of the system will be crowdfunding where, all right,
We take care of ourselves.
this area, the bridge fell down. So let's put up a GoFundMe account and get the money and build a new bridge. If people really want it and really support it, they're voting with their dollars.
A lot of school systems already work that way. I mean,
Really?
if in our area, if
School levy.
if people want new gyms, they want new buses, you pass a levy. You get the locals to be engaged and actually get behind an idea, and then you create real change. It doesn't work that way everywhere, but in our general area, if
Once again, being rural works for us in this instance. Being a smaller community spread out over a larger space, people take more care and care more that their children are going to a functioning school, and they take more time. They pay attention versus waiting for the government to do it because it's not going to happen.
Yeah. That's why a lot of rural people voted for Trump.
yeah,
'Cause there's that take
that's
charge.
that
Well, and it
flyover
was
country.
also
mentality.
the backswing. Like, oh, Obama's president, and he's going to go for all this hyper liberal movements, huge swings in this opposite direction, this polar opposite direction of what people are used to. And now we're regulating back. Like, this is the reaction, is go the opposite direction of that.
Yeah.
Like, what did you expect to happen?
Yeah.
And now my main worry with Trump is like, now if he became president, like, who's next? Like, anybody
Yeah,
can
that's
be.
the thing about the pendulum, and this is how the technology.
Pendulum is swinging.
That's how the technology can solve it, though. See, the problem is you're voting these people in for 4 years. Okay, so then it's like, all right, we've got 4 years to move that
You
pendulum.
barely get anything done in 4 years.
Right, but still, you know, okay, it took 8 years or whatever for Obama to be in there, but
Ugh.
it's 4 or 8 years of moving the pendulum. And like Chelsea just said, you can move that pendulum too far in 8 years.
Oh yeah.
And then
Wait for
everyone has to sit there on the sideline, like white knuckled, waiting for this shit to pass.
Yeah.
And Canada's the same way. Canada doesn't vote in leaders. Canada votes out the last leader. It's never a positive thing. It's always a negative. Get rid of that fucker. He's been in there for too long. He's taken the pendulum too far. If you have a system where people are voting in real time and you get rid of these people you're putting in charge of your vote for 4 years, then you got a system where the pendulum can't go too far, right? Because you can fix it on the next vote.
I guess whenever it comes down to using AI for government, the people who can write the algorithms will be vying for the power. But there's also ways around that also by just having the machine write its own programming.
Well, there's systems as well that are more distributed. Like the way that Bitcoin works is it's open, it's public, it's distributed. There's not one little group that's in charge of the blockchain that's used in it. You know, I've been involved in open source software projects. It's open source.
Yeah.
So they run the project. You get maybe 250 developers working on it around the world. Then it gets bigger than that even. And then sometimes what will happen is half the community will disagree with the other half. It's like, you know what? We think this software should go this way. And these guys are like, no, it needs to stay the way it is. They're like, okay, see you. And what
Yeah.
they do is,
Peace.
no, they can just
We're going to
branch-
morph into something
copy,
else.
They copy and they branch off and they create a variant of it.
Yeah.
And often that variant will go on to be bigger than the stem that it came from. It's like,
Like evolves.
it's like working with plants when you're doing the hybrids.
So
what do you
basically,
call that?
decentralization. I mean, that's what it consists
absolute decentralization.
Cloning.
Yeah. And I think the government of the state, I don't even want to say government because all that baggage now just means take care of people. So we'll say state. Okay. So the state of the future is going to look more like an open source software development project than it does a government. Okay. So eventually, and we're having this balkanization effect where the giant federation is now breaking into counties and even smaller pieces, So with that, it's going to demand a new type of government, and you have all these tools now available where people can cast their vote, raise petitions, do crowdfunding. It's time that disrupts government.
So the transition from where we are now to that,
Mm-hmm.
that could work. Like the transition is where it's going to get really messy
Yeah.
and really muddy, and people are going to die, and people are going to complain, and people are going to bitch and moan, and then eventually they'll get through it, and then they'll find something wrong with that system as well.
Okay,
That's
yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
But the way that it's going to work is it's going to take it, the balkanization is going to work to the advantage of bringing in the new technology, the technological form of government. Because these new states, like Alberta, for example, in Canada, when that breaks away from Canada, they're going to start fresh. What does a republic look like today? Why not have direct state instead of representative government?
So
Represent yourself.
So it's going to ride in on these new.
So the transition will happen in different places at different rates.
Yeah.
and
What if
it'll
Texas?
spread out from
What if
there.
Texas finally decides to secede from the union? What are they going to do? Right? Maybe they bring in direct.
They adopt
democracy.
that policy?
They
that
could, or
direct
California could.
You know,
or-
that's how statehood was supposed to be. I mean, states in the past were looked at as almost mini countries, but we all fell under the flag of the United States of America.
Yeah.
So,
And then the time between Thomas Jefferson publishing the summary review until the time when the Declaration of Independence was penned, there were things that happened in there where they felt like all those states were operating totally independently and they weren't working together. They were working against each other. And that's why there was this Declaration of Independence, we the people of the United States, came in to say, okay, we're going to cement together this like shared vision. Okay, that's why it was created. Shared vision so you can work together, not so that there was this one police state that you could use to like interfere in everyone's lives.
yeah.
And all I'm saying is Uber has disrupted the taxi industry. Self-driving vehicles have disrupted the whole transportation industry. The hotel industry has been disrupted by Airbnb. Trump is the beginning of the disruption of government. It's disrupted. And now finally, the door is now open for technological replacement of representative jackasses in government.
You got it. Well, like I said, I think we have solved the world's problems here today. So
For now,
now.
there'll always
Stop
be more.
bitching and take care of yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just last words is you got to get rid of the people. Don't create positions that people can take advantage of like that,
Exactly.
like Congress.
Get rid of the politicians.
Mhm.
Become your own politician. Represent yourself.
Vote with your dollar.
Yeah, there should be a lot of that going on also.
Cool. Well, interesting. I don't know what kind of parallel having New Republics has to do with Detroit, but we're here in Detroit, and the King Louis, can't remember which King Louis it was, the one that sent Cadillac here to found the city, had a vision that the French and the natives and any other cultures would live together here in a utopian harmony under the ideals, kind of the similar ideals that led to the French Revolution, just like fraternity and freedom and liberty, you know, those kind of ideas that people could live together. And we still haven't seen that come to fruition anywhere. But I mean, in all goodness, that was
Maybe in
point.
the 50s and the 40s they said that here, but
Maybe. But I mean,
Bunch of
It-
hippies.
right now it's a little far away from that just because of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
But we're here in the weakest link of America, here to fix it, here to have it taken over by Chad.
No, it's I don't need to come in and help anybody. I mean, it's just a matter of getting the information out there and getting people to see that there's something beyond this. It's just a crutch. Representative government is just a crutch. It was just to put a democracy in.
It was the
place.
best we had.
It was the best you had.
And
till
now we have
better.
something better.
Yeah.
Now we can do no better, do better.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
Great.
now we can evolve.
So we've got a big show coming up soon on health freedom.
Yes, we do. Yes,
And we
do.
have Mike Phillip from The Americanuck, which is it's a show on Genesis Radio Network. And he also does another show called, one second, I don't want to get the damn name wrong. It's Tactical
Health Podcast.
Yes, Tactical Health Podcast. So that'll be interesting. And you'll be there, right, Kevin?
Oh, yeah. We'll be talking about the downfall of healthcare in North America and what the drug companies do to us, what it takes to become a drug, what it takes to be a patient in Canada and in America, and how it affects our lives.
Yeah. So we've changed our format. We're not really doing it like just a podcast anymore. We're using YouTube Live. So you can listen live and you can comment while we're talking now. And we might even notice and respond to what you're saying once we figure out how this works. So what you want to do is you want to start following the New Standard channel on YouTube. You want to go and subscribe, and you want to make sure you click the little bell so you get notifications when we go live on the air, or you're going to miss out and you'll have to hear the archive. So that's it. Thank you, Chelsea, for joining us, being
My
our
pleasure.
special guest today. We love having guests. It gives us more energy, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
A little different angle.
Thanks for driving 3 hours, both of you, here to Detroit. I didn't have to drive. I had to drive like 45 minutes, but I had to wait at the border
You
for
did
an
have
hour.
to cross the border.
Another
that's it.
hour.
Yikes.
Because
just an hour to get across the
every
bridge.
Canadian car got the trunk open and got all of their stuff molested by the U.S. border guard because
Jeez,
Justin Trudeau gave $10 million to terrorists that killed an American soldier. So I can understand how Americans would be pissed off and
Yeah.
careful
And
now.
want to finger bang all your stuff.
And what? Yeah, exactly.
You're gonna finger bang all your stuff. That's what you get.
That's why I didn't bring much stuff, because I don't want my stuff. I don't want like those kind of paw prints on my stuff. All right. Signing off. Have a great weekend, everybody.
See you, everybody.
This has been a Kinetic Media production, copyright 2017, all rights reserved.